Hello, welcome to Image Bearers. My name is Otoma Edje. This is season 3, episode 12. Very fortunate today to have on the program Danielle Williams, who's going to share a few things about the most recent International Women's Day that we had here in Detroit, Michigan. Also joined with us is Joy Newley, good friends, who's now in Wisconsin. She used to love us, but then she decided to kind of jet out of here. She couldn't handle the cold weather, so she went somewhere even colder. I don't know. But again, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure. So if you can share a little bit about the International Women's Day, how it went, and also, what you shared about specifically in your time.
Yeah. So International Women's Day, we had a service for women in the Southeast Michigan, honestly, all of Michigan. There were people even there from Florida who were tuning in to this Zoom call that had, I think at its max, maybe 255 women. And so it was a really great time, lots of sharing and just connecting as women who are seeking to just grow in their relationship with God and connect in that way. I shared, and a couple other sisters, Melanie Jacob and Shaki Sorrell, shared about their experiences, along with Ruth Kang, the women's leader, did a lesson too. So I shared about my experience growing up in a really, visually diverse church with lots of different brothers and sisters of different colors. And, just growing up thinking that racism honestly didn't exist. I honestly didn't realize that racism still existed. I talk about how the first Black president was elected when I was 9. And I grew up going to this diverse church. I had access to education, an education that I think it was lacking in some ways, but overall just figured I'm living my ancestors' wildest dreams. So everything must be good. When in actuality, there's a lot that's still not good. And
You
there's
were
a
in
lot.
a bubble.
Yes, I was in a bubble. And it was a uninformed, happy bubble, I think. And so I think I went from being uninformed and just super happy and, thinking life is just good, to informed and heartbroken. And so I talk about that and talk about wrestling with everything I've been learning in my classes as an Afro-American studies major, but also everything that took place from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud, and all these other stories this past summer. So wrestling with God and finding comfort in the minor prophets, and hearing God's perspective about injustice and how he hates injustice. So that's what I shared about.
That's awesome. So what did Ashaki and Melanie share about?
Ashaki gave great declarations, and just talked. I honestly, to be honest, everything was really glitchy on my end. So all of the little like Zoom squares weren't really coming up. But from what I could hear, she talked about finding her identity and other things outside of God and really clinging to God. And then Melanie shared just a lot of different stories and sharing about her life in China at certain points and just really trusting God through varying situations she experienced throughout her life. So, yeah, it was a really great time of sharing. And I honestly am hoping, I've been actually looking at the YouTube for the Detroit Church for them to post the recording because I haven't been able to. Everything was so glitchy, I couldn't make out all of everyone sharing. So I kind of want to go back and hear how it went. But the feedback I've heard has been phenomenal. I talked to my mom yesterday and she's like, all my girlfriends that came loved it. And
Did
I have,
your mom didn't sing, did she?
no.
Oh, okay. I didn't miss anything. Okay. Okay.
Sarah
She's an
D'Angelo
awesome
did.
singer. I would have snuck in if I knew she was singing. I would have
That,
had long wavy hair and pretended.
yeah, Sarah D'Angelo, Kate Barnes, and or Kate Taylor, and Dina Fox did a great song presentation too. So they
Yeah.
collaborated and recorded. So it was really beautiful worship. And just even afterwards, a lot of people stayed after to fellowship and try to kind of talking over each other, but just trying to connect.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, no, my wife said you did an incredible job just with your presentation. So that's awesome. She had actually three of her friends come out, which was great. So I think she'd
Awesome.
invited one of her coworkers, and then that coworker felt lonely, so she invited two other people, which was awesome. And
Awesome.
so they were all there, listening to the International Women's Day. And I think she has a picture of herself pointing at Rhoda on one of the squares, so that was really cool.
Yeah, what was cool is people were sending me pictures of what they could see, and I'm like, wow, why is it that our Wi-Fi is glitching when everyone else's seems to be completely fine? So I don't know what happened on our end, but
That's awesome. So, Joey, any questions, any thoughts? And I know you guys also had a Women's Day on your side, so you want to share either about that or any questions you have for
Yeah.
Danielle?
Yeah, I have one question for Danielle. You mentioned like the minor prophets. Is there any specific one you'd recommend reading or studying out? One that kind of stood out to you, that would be helpful for studying out justice, how God feels about it. That'd be really helpful.
yeah. I pulled a lot of scriptures from Amos and Micah, two beautiful minor prophets that talk all about injustice within Israel too. So not just kind of the world at large, but God's chosen people exploiting each other, honestly. So it's really interesting, especially if you can get a hold of like just theological commentary. There's just a lot going on in there, and you really see how God is even reprimanding his own people for their sin and against each other too. So it's really interesting.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'll definitely have to study those out. It's been a while since I've read those. And yes, we also did have our own Women's Day. We in Madison, Wisconsin were with the Chicago ministry, and there were a lot of women there all over the world. We had people from like the Netherlands even, and we had a Spanish speaking like or subtitles for the Spanish speaking ministry, and we also had a deaf translation as well, which was really awesome to see how accessible um, our day was. And we heard some great speakers as well and testimonies about how God has changed some women's lives, and it was really, really inspiring to hear. And Yonella Testa, who leads the metro region of Chicago, did a lesson on Esther and how God is the maker of the impossible, and she shared her amazing testimony of her growing up in Romania and coming to America, which was also super impacting.
That's awesome. So, a couple of things before we wrap it up. How did you guys evangelize? It sounds obvious, just give out cards or what have you, but what were some, I guess, effective ways that you guys were able to evangelize for your International Women's Day? Start with you, Danielle.
I don't know how it was in Chicago, but for us, we had an Eventbrite link to our Women's Day. So I sent that to all my girlfriends. It's like, hey, and even trying to get them to come because I would be sharing. So like, I'm going to be sharing, come support me, and hoping that seeds would be planted. And one of my good friends came and supported and was commenting in the chat and all these different things. So
She wasn't heckling, was she?
no.
Okay. Got to watch out.
Yeah. So yeah, it was really cool. And what's cool is in hopes that, if there is a recording out there, that can get sent out to people that weren't able to make it. Even, disciples who may not have been able to make it on a Saturday morning. So yeah, that's kind of how my mom and I just sent links to everyone. My grandma, she came, aunts, anyone who was interested.
That's awesome. And yourself, Joy?
Yeah, I would say using the same methods of links and by word of mouth. Again, when you get with friends with your, social distancing, letting them know. And yeah, the Eventbrite was super easy to like sign up on. And I think that was really useful for a lot of the women, especially internationally as well.
Yeah, it's a new age, I'll tell you. It's a new age.
Mhm.
One thing I just wanted to share before we wrap it up is in reference to different books of the Bible that are really awesome. I know you mentioned the minor prophets, but one I'll throw out to you in the New Testament is the book of Luke. The
Okay.
book of Luke is an incredible book in reference to the number of times that the poor are referenced. And even just the whole tenor of the book is about the oppressed and so forth. So, that's a book I can commend, and I'll try to put a link on the video to an author I recently interviewed in reference to just the richness of the book of Luke. So, well, I'm glad you guys had an awesome time. We definitely need to figure something out for the men at one of these points. But thanks so much for your sharing.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day.